Hi, I'm Alan Hedblum. Welcome to our show, a place to feel like you belong. Today's guest has a history of helping others. Tran has worked in refugee resettlement for the United Nations. She's taught citizenship classes in the U.S. And today, she is president of Liaison Linguistics and vice president-elect of the Vietnamese American Association of Grand Rapids. Welcome to Feel Like You Belong.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me here.
You bet. So, historically, April 30th, 1975 was a very significant day in modern Vietnamese history. Can you tell us a little bit about what you were doing on that day?
That early morning, we were still in Vũng Tàu City, and we left the shore to reach to the American vessel. So we left before the Fall of Saigon, the official Fall of Saigon, by boat. We prepared this for months ahead. Actually, my cousin built the ship. We could get 100 people in there.
Okay. So, and you were, just for people who aren't so fresh on history, you were preparing to leave Vietnam because? Because
of the communists. Because my parents know that, knew that the communists will take over of South Vietnam.
Okay.
So we left. We were the first two families that got into the American vessel. And later that day, when the president announced that he gave up the country to the communists, then a lot of refugees also came out by boat to get to the vessels. And there were a lot of big vessels, army from the Navy to the commercial vessel were there waiting for us to pick us up.
American ships.
American ships.
Sure, sure. And you were telling, meanwhile there was shelling, there was shooting in the distance.
Yes, it was inside, and then also they're shooting outside to the vessel as well. Towards
the boats.
Yes.
And the people fleeing.
Yes.
Yeah. When we were talking earlier, you had a really poignant moment. You were aboard the ship and looking down, and you noticed that they had thrown over nets to help bring people up. And there was a father with two small children. Can you share that story?
Yes. When there were a lot of people approached to the ship to get rescued, then the ship threw down the big net, like fishing net, and then people got into the net and they pulled it up like tuna, and then the ship kept moving outside of Vietnam, the land, because of the
shelling.
Yes.
Okay.
And so I was up there and I saw they were bringing up a bunch of people in the net, inside the net, and there was a man with two kids. He has his arm holding on to the net because he didn't want to miss that again. So they continued to follow the ship. But half of the way up there, he dropped. Both of the father and the two kids fell down and dead right there in front of us.
Yeah, yeah. And I think in those hurried, frantic moments, so many things happen just in a split second. And you know, here's a life, here's a family, and just like that, gone.
Yes, and emotionally, I didn't feel anything at that time. We were kind of numb, just seeing that, and just, okay, he's dead. There's nothing we can do about it.
You said later, as the ship was pulling away, it started to sink in to you.
whenever I think about this moment, I always cry because as the ship moved out of Vietnam and we see the land get smaller and smaller and suddenly disappear in front of us. And we all cried.
Because that was possibly the last time you would see your homeland.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, when you were escaping, you were leaving with your dad and some siblings, but your family didn't leave intact.
That's right. My father and 6 of us left, prepared and left, and my mom said that, okay, I will join you later, a few days later, but then because of the fighting between Saigon and Vũng Tàu, so she couldn't get out. So she left Vietnam we left her there for 10 years. And
that's a long time.
We unite with us 10 years later.
Yeah. And the scary part about it was, in between, she had gotten some misinformation.
That's right. The rumor was that our whole boat was capsized and we all were dead. And so for 2 years, she didn't know if we were alive or dead, but she believed that we were dead. And she went to the church every day and prayed for us.
So lived with the horror of thinking her family was gone.
Yes.
Sure.
For 2 years.
Yeah. Now you came when you came with your dad. You came to the U.S. Through Pennsylvania.
Yes.
And
Indian Tall Gap. Yes.
Okay. And eventually then settled in Michigan, but you had a hard time adapting early on. New country, new geography, new language, but you had a very kind teacher early on. Can you tell us about your ESL teacher?
Yes. The first year I had, of course, we had to take ESL classes. And Mrs. Julie Veneman was my very first ESL teacher.
You still remember her name?
I still remember her name, and we still contact each other. Okay. I consider her as a sister now. She was the reason, I think she was a role model for me to be here, what I am right now. Mm-hmm. Her caring, I could not see anybody better than that, caring more than her. And because of her, I pushed myself to the best I could to be successful.
And you had said that wasn't a familiar teaching style to you from your school days in Vietnam.
Right. It was a lot of caring. In Vietnam, the teacher can be with 60 students. Okay. And they don't really know you. But here with Mrs. Veneman, she knows each one of us and really care for each one of us. And because of her, I keep doing a better job with studying English and studying different subjects.
But you got through school and not all of your teachers were equally supportive. You had a very opposite story.
Yes, I did. I had that too. When I was in college, we all had to take English tests and also math tests to see where we are at, so that they can put us in place. I passed English classes, and I passed the English test. And I was able to take the first college composition.
The introductory class that native-speaking Americans take. Mm-hmm.
And the first day when the professor called my name, and he said, "Are you sure you're here?" I said, "Yes." "I don't think you belong here." Mm. And he made sure that I would fail that class. So it was sad. I didn't know it was discrimination at that time. Mm-hmm. I didn't know until much, much later that was a kind of discrimination it's a hidden discrimination that I realized that. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And you had mentioned that you retook the class with a different instructor and a much different result.
Well, the first semester, I did not want to have a C or a D for my class. So of course, I withdraw the class. And so I got a W for that one. And I took the same class again with a different professor. This professor is Mrs. White. I can't remember her first name. It was from Grand Valley State University. And I submitted the same essay, the 3-4 essays that I submitted to the other professor. And she read my essay in the classroom. And she said to my classmate, "See, look at this. This is written by a foreigner. You need to know how to write." I was very shocked. And I got totally opposite grades, A's or A plus with my writing.
A good reminder that we all need a little encouragement along the way, but she was actually giving you an honest assessment that you were competent, that you were ready to fit in.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So I want to transition a little bit because our time is drawing short. You are the president of Liaison Linguistics. What does this company do?
Liaison Linguistics provide interpretation translation services to the community. We have contracts with many large institutions. We provide about 100 languages, and we have about 250 active interpreters working for us.
All as contract employees?
Yes.
Okay.
Most of them, the majority of them are contracted employees. And our theme with Liaison is serving the community with language needs.
Okay.
Because we know there are a lot of immigrants that come here without proper communication. The doctors cannot treat them. The school cannot serve them.
And you can identify because you came in those very same shoes.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
a few decades before.
Yes, you're very right.
Yeah.
And I think I choose what I like to do.
And
yes.
you understand how important it is for immigrants, for newcomers to get that acceptance, to be brought into the fold, because as we know, immigrants are hardworking folks, and if given the chance, they eventually start their own companies.
Yes.
and do really great things to give back in the community.
I believe so.
Yeah.
I believe that we all need help at first. If I didn't have any help in 1975, we wouldn't be here.
Sure, sure. Last question. And this is specifically about local community. You're the vice president-elect of the Vietnamese American Association.
Yes.
What are the goals? What are you looking to achieve within your local community?
Yes. Our major goal is to maintain our culture, Vietnamese culture, and also to help our generation, the younger generation, to be proud of who they are. They are, no matter what, we are all American, but we do have different backgrounds.
You have a heritage.
Yes, and we need to be proud of it.
Sure, sure. Okay. Anna, it's been a real pleasure having you in the studio today, and I thank you for coming by and sharing your story.
Thank you very much for having me.
You bet.
Yeah.
And for our friends back home, stay tuned because we'll be coming back in just a moment with some tips on American English, American culture, and a little American humor. Have you ever been out in public and noticed mistakes on signs? They can be fancy ones that cost a lot of money. They can also be simple ones that were handwritten. In both cases, no one checked to see if they were correct. In the case of handwritten ones, it's not such a big deal. Those are mostly temporary and will be taken down soon. In the case of more permanent signs, they can make the person or company look careless or even uneducated. A common mistake is with punctuation. In fairness, Most English speakers weren't paying attention when their teachers were explaining punctuation. They were busy talking to their friends or rolling their eyes and thinking how boring punctuation is. The most common punctuation error is with apostrophes. People just insert them when they're not sure, usually before an S. This is called the greengrocer's apostrophe because grocers who sell produce often have to hand letter small signs which are telling which kind of vegetables are for sale. Here are some cases of signs I've photographed with an extra apostrophe. Sometimes they're really expensive ones, like this restaurant sign. I got into trouble about this one. I'll tell you the story later if you ask me. My colleague, Becky Tikotsky, has a blog called Apostrophe Catastrophes, where she shares photos of lots and lots of signs with mistakes on them. You can check it out here if you want to see them, or maybe check out your own ability to spot mistakes. Here are 5 more signs I've seen in public. Can you recognize what's wrong with them? Send us your answers and we'll tell you if you're correct. In the meantime, if you're going to the effort of communicating with public signage, be sure to spell check your work, or hire a language consultant to get it right for you. A woman goes to see her psychiatrist. She says, "Doctor, I keep having dreams about my childhood camping trips. I can't get rid of this nostalgia." The psychiatrist nods. "I think I see your problem. You're stuck living in the past tense."